Welcome to the Scott Holland Podcast. Back here at the very end of the college sports season calendar, but still with a number of things to talk about tonight. Some off-season news, including a long-awaited head coach hiring that I think we're all pretty excited about. And because the recruiting calendar never ends, some football recruiting talk, recapping, I think, also one of our favorite late-season annual sporting events, the NCAA Track and Field Outdoor Championships, where U of H was well represented on both the men's and women's side. And I would say that was a good curtain closer to this athletics year. Dustin, aside from the major topic that we've had largely consume our lives recently, how are you doing, friend?
Major topic? I'm not sure. I'm not following you either. It's been good to come back here and be talking to you guys about regular old Cougar sports and coaches being hired and results happening, players committing, all the fun. I know we're going to talk in a little bit about the elephant in the room, which is our most recent episode. We'll at least briefly touch on it here in a bit, but it's been good. I'm finally starting to sleep a little bit better, which I wasn't doing real well for a while there. So happy to have that more under control. And like you said, lots of good Cougar news to be chatting with the folks about today.
Bobby, how you doing, friend?
Just on a personal note, not great. We have there's been a lot of drama in my life, as you two know. But anytime I get to ignore that for a couple hours and hop on the microphone and talk to you guys about Cougar sports is always better than that. So looking forward to the next hour or so and hanging out with you guys.
Great stuff. We'll keep it short and sweet with this one. Please do. If you're watching this, you can see it right below my big head. Charlie Hustle, our good friends and sponsors, a little bit to the left of Dustin, southwest of Bobby. I'm kind of getting my directions confused there, but what you will not be confused about is the amazing apparel that Charlie Hustle has. Incredible Cougar collection, incredible college sports and Big 12 collection, looking more broadly at those two areas. Vintage wearables, hoodies, crew neck shirts. No, it's more the shirt season, and believe you will have something that you like here coming in the next month or so from our friends at Charlie Hustle. So go to them at charliehustle.com. On the World Wide Web, use our promo code PAWD12. That's POD12. So support our friends that themselves support the Scott Nolan podcast. Dustin, let's briefly get to that elephant in the room, because you can't do an episode like we did about a week ago and just pretend like you're coming on here and nothing's happening. But obviously, we're not going to let it consume the oxygen, because there's a lot of really good U of H news to talk about that we're going to dig into plenty tonight.
Absolutely. Yeah, I did want to mention, I imagine the number of people who are watching this episode who did not watch the last one is probably not a very large number. But if that describes you, we would encourage you to go listen to that episode. We very much broke from our normal podcast schedule and spoke about the allegations that half a dozen sources within the Cougar softball program had made about head coach Kristen Vesely. Just again, we'll, just had a massive outpouring, frankly, of support from players and staff who have, liked, retweeted the episode, spoken with us since then about their experiences with Kristen Vesely. So, I can say, at least for myself, when we were hitting publish on that last episode, I don't think I'd ever even entertained the possibility of doing a follow-up, and I was so focused on that one, it never even occurred to me. We published that on Tuesday evening, about 7:30 Central. By the time I went to bed, it was like, we're going to have to do another episode about this, because so many people had already reached out, corroborated the allegations that had already been made in our episode, brought new allegations forward that were, as shocking as the things we'd already heard up until that point. So still in the process of speaking to individuals, trying to wrap our mind around everything. Just want to say that we're tremendously grateful to everyone that's spoken with us. The amount of sensitive personal information that young women have shared with us, 3 guys they've never met, going over stuff from their past that is not pleasant to talk about, has left me speechless more times than I can tell you at this point. So we don't take that for granted, the amount of courage that took for granted. So thank you to everyone that's spoken with us. And just going forward, it has been kind of interesting to see the response that we've gotten. Like I said, players and staff has been remarkable. The people that know us and trust us, I think, have been shocked and wanted something to happen, for there to be some consequences for what the things that we mentioned. And unfortunately, the response from U of H and from media outlets more respectable and respected than ourselves has been a resounding silence, which is understandable. As far as they know, we're just kind of making stuff up. So we'll see what happens going forward. We'd love, obviously, to move the needle a little bit if someone is willing to go on the record. But regardless, like we said, we will be revisiting this story in the future, continuing to tell the stories that we've been told about what's going on in the Cougar softball program. It's been a wild time. Like I said, I think we're all very, very doing well with the decisions that we made in terms of choosing to tell that story the way we did.
Yeah, like you alluded to the beginning, is sleeping a lot better. I would just say also, this isn't like a movie sequel. This is a real life story with real life people. We're not trying to tease something for like listenership here. This is just about telling more of the story and not also trying to tease a bombshell. Like, it might just be us reporting some stuff that's like slightly more mundane than the more salacious of the allegations. Again, it's just about making sure the story's out there, not about us making any kind of big splash to promote ourselves. This is about the young women in that program, who I think were generally failed by the University of Houston.
Yeah, just to add on there, our for all three of us, I know I can speak for us on this. This isn't what we do to make our money. This isn't what we do to get famous. That was not why you two started this podcast. This is not why I started joining on the podcast. We do this because we love the university. We love everything about it. We may disagree with some of the things the university does. I can't think of any off the top of my head right now, but this is not about us. This is not about Sam, Dustin, or myself. This is about a story that was brought to us to give some voice to some people that had they saw a problem and they spoke up. And so it's our job when we see a problem to speak up as well. So again, this isn't, to Sam's point, something that we're doing for the cachet or to be popular or to get things written about us or anything like that. It's really just about telling the story. And so, as Dustin alluded to, we had, by the time we all kind of went to bed, it was pretty obvious that a second episode was going to happen. We don't know when a second episode's going to happen. We are trying to make sure we're doing the reporting in the correct way to make sure that we're getting the proper amount of support to the allegations, but also not just throwing things up against the wall and seeing what sticks. It's really making sure that there are multiple sources that can confirm these stories.
Yeah. So, I mean, anyone out there, if you do have firsthand experience within this Cougar softball program with Kristen Besley, if you do want to reach out, you can email us shpodcast@gmail.com. Of course, pod with PAWD. And then the same pun sh at sh podcast on Twitter. Our DMs are open there at podcast.bsky.social on Blue Sky. Our DMs are open there as well. So feel free to reach out to us. We would love to hear what you have to say, anonymously or otherwise. And with that, guys, let's have a regular ass episode of the Scott and Holman podcast. What do you say?
Let's do it.
All right. So I think we're starting with track and field, competing at outdoor national championships, as Sam mentioned. A really strong performance on both sides by the men and the women. I think the biggest highlight has to be Louie Hinchliffe winning the national championship in the men's 100-meter dash with a time of 9.95 seconds. That is Houston's first individual title since 2019. Hinchliffe becoming the 7th Cougar to win the national title in the men's 100-meter dash, joining Carl Lewis, Stanley Floyd, Joe DeLoach, Leroy Burrell, Samuel Jefferson, and the late, great Cameron Burrell. So, guys, obviously, anytime you see someone wearing the Cougar red and white winning a natty, it's pretty awesome. But even more, a little bit good for my soul, seeing it happen in the 100-meter dash, an event that has kind of been, baked into Houston's history.
Yeah, quick, very related aside, if you'll allow me, guys, on this event. I went up to Eugene in the fall of 2022 for the Cougar men's basketball game that was there. Made a weekend of it, went to the football game the first night I was there. Also walked around Oregon State, which is about a half-hour drive away, and did some walking around kind of the University of Oregon athletic buildings. And just from the outside, guys, the venue where the outdoor championship happens, Hayward, looks like an ultra-modern football stadium. That tells you how serious Oregon and, I guess, Nike are about the sport, and the significant part of both entities' history. And of course, just seeing pictures and watching the championship this year, the interior is, if possible, even more impressive. Dustin, you and I were lucky enough to be at an outdoor championship in Austin in 2019, and I don't want to speak for you, but it was one of the cooler sporting experiences I've ever done in my life. I feel like you very much feel the same. Oregon was doing their large scale renovation of Hayward Field at the time. It was one of the absolute favorite sporting events I attended in person, not just because U of H was top 3 that year, but just incredible watching all these high level athletes and all these different events. If you're a sports fan, even if you know only the basics of track and field, I think you'll appreciate that high level competition, the drama, the insanely close finishes, to even qualify for the finals themselves too. So I'll get off my soapbox, but I just like reiterating annually how cool of an event NCAA Outdoors are. Very much on my sport bucket list to get out to Eugene and actually see it there. Hinchliffe also won the national title, ran the 4th fastest time in program history, which I think that's a context-free good achievement when it's the 100-meter dash at the University of Houston. I feel like it's an unbelievable one. Just a really cool, likable guy talking about running like he's getting chased by a dog, all that stuff. And oh no, big U of H also had Sean Maswanyani running a 10:05 and finishing 7th in that same 100-meter finals. Like, probably wasn't his best day, but the fact that he had 2 of the top 8 in the 100-meter dash, those 2 guys, also Hinchliffe and Maswanyani, also part of a podium placing 4x1 relay where the Cougars were 3rd. I think really cool. Obviously not the only highlights from the weekend, but those are 2 pretty cool top level ones.
Yeah, it's just just incredible to see a national championship in no matter the sport, no matter the event, no matter anything. National titles are always fun. You brought out Sean Maswanyani only finishing a 10th back, but somehow it being 7th place. That's how close this race was. And if you kind of watched the race, which I'm sure a lot of you have, it actually led SportsCenter the night of it. It was the first thing they showed. Really cool, but it didn't even look like that Hinchliffe was going to win there for a little. Like I said, for a little bit, like it wasn't a sub 10 second event, but when he came out of the blocks, you were kind of like, okay. And then, it's over. So, in just seeing a U of H athlete win a national title is just one of the cooler things to see. Whenever you get to see that on ESPN, it says right there, they put the results and you see that UH logo right next to it. Just really cool. Overall, pretty good meet for the Cougs, I would say overall. Finishing 6th in the men's championship. I said this about some, I believe it was golf, where they got the invite and they were one of the first. If we finished number 6 in the country in any event, we would be losing our minds. Like, it always baffles me when sometimes, you see Cougars excited about it on the on social media and things like that, but then everyone's like, oh, we got 6th. It's like, no, we were the 6th best team in a sport against anybody in the country. If we were number 6 in football, you wouldn't be able to scroll your Twitter feed without being inundated with U of H fans. Baseball, that's making the College World Series. It's like,
just give me like 36th in baseball right now, not to take away from the track, but yeah,
just it's. You're in Omaha. Imagine if U of H baseball was in Omaha right now. It would be amazing. That's what just happened. We were just in Omaha. And not only were we in Omaha, we did pretty good in Omaha. We had the best pitcher in Omaha. It's like the guy we had the guy who won the MVP of Omaha, even though we didn't win, right? He was the guy that everybody was like, oh my gosh, that guy is the best pitcher here, and it's not even close. That's what just happened. That's how big of a deal this is.
Yeah, and you mentioned, not only Hinchliffe winning the national title, but a couple of other podium finishes for the men. The 4x1 relay, taking 3rd place, another event that's, in Houston's lifeblood. Good to see them doing well in that event. Christian Sampe tying for 3rd in the pole vault, the highest finish in podium history. Other scores on the men's side, Devion Wilson finished 5th in the 110 hurdles, and Sean Maswanyani, we mentioned, finished 7th in the 100 meters, also finished 6th in the 200 meters. You mentioned the 6th place finish with 30.5 points. That's the highest among Big 12 programs. It was just 10.5 points shy of team champions Florida. So, we talk about 6th place. That is a remarkable finish. But, head coach Carl Lewis was quick to point out afterwards, Devion Wilson, clipped a hurdle in the final to finish 5th. sounded like Lewis thought Wilson had a chance to maybe win the thing if that doesn't happen.
Silver medalist last year, yeah.
Yeah, Maswanganyi, certainly that's someone that's a podium threat in both the 100 and the 200. I think you have to say he, like Sam said, probably didn't have his best day in those events to not take the podium.
I think Coach Lewis even said he got out of the blocks a little slow on the 100.
Really, it doesn't take too many butterfly wings flapping a little bit differently for Houston to be heavily involved in the hunt for the team national championship here. And that's really exciting. It's a little bit of a bittersweet given, the percentage of those individuals that are now seniors and are moving on and graduating, and certainly it's going to be restarting. But in terms of an individual event, just really, really impressed with the men. And on the women's side too, another strong performance. A women's team that has had trouble scoring at nationals over the last decade plus. But on the women's side, we saw Sydney Townsend taking 5th place in the 400 meters. And Townsend, Kellyanne Beckford, Iman Babineau, and Michaela Mouton combined to take 5th place in the 4x4 relay. That gave Houston 18 points, which put them in a tie for 33rd place overall, 5th among Big 12 programs. So, not quite at the same high national level as the men, but on their own journey, that was a big step forward. Kind of like the men, though, same thing. Where 3 of those 4 athletes that we just talked about in that relay, all graduating this year. So, I think it is going to kind of end up being a big pivotal year for the program. First year in the Big 12, like everybody else. But certainly trying to rebuild and get to that, keep that ceiling, that high ceiling being a threat at the national level. I think it might be a little bit tougher next year. But we've seen this staff bring in some big time immediate performers before. It could happen again, and certainly some youngsters in this program. Michaela Mouton on the women's side, on the men's side, Entre Amita had a really exciting freshman campaign. Hinchcliffe was only a sophomore. So I think some good youngsters to build around, but definitely a pivotal kind of year for the program. But like you said, 6th place on the men's side at nationals, when you had a real chance to, if things break your way, finish even higher. You have to be excited and proud of the Cougs for the season that they had.
Yeah, top Big 12 points finish in the men's side as well. That was one of those things. Like, actually, I uncovered something like fact wise that I felt like no one else had, or I hadn't seen anyone else mention it. Coming into the episode.
I said it about
coming into the episode. Not commentary and co-host here, but no, like I think really impressive considering just the amount of really freaking good track programs in the Big 12. Most women's points since 2007 at Outdoors as well. So yeah, really, really cool stuff. Like, I think we all believed this program would take this step forward to have this kind of performance under Will Blackburn and Carl Lewis, but I think it's cool to see. It's cool to see it, and also good to see old friend Leroy Burrell and Auburn doing quite well on the men's side as well. They just finished 1 point off first place. If you call yourself a Cougar fan, you can't help but be excited for that guy and just everything he's given to the university as a student athlete and coach. But really excited to see this program in its new era under coaches Blackburn and Lewis doing what they did here this year, both on the men's and women's side.
Absolutely. Yep. All right, next up, I think we're going to talk about much awaited, both awaited because it took a long time for Houston to announce the hire, and then also because after it happened, we didn't post out a regular episode for like a week and a half, but we're finally here talking about it. We are extremely excited to talk about new Houston Cougar tennis head coach Katarina Adamovic. She is already bringing players with her as well as after being announced, but I think in terms of what we were looking for from a tennis coach, I said it on Twitter right away. I think she checks all the boxes. She was a huge star athlete in the Big 12 at Oklahoma State, graduating in 2017. Got an assistant job at Cincinnati, followed by one at Missouri. At both jobs, you saw those programs succeed compared to previous levels, and she parlayed that into the head coaching job at Grand Canyon University, where she spent the last 2 years winning the WAC tournament, both years winning the WAC regular season this year, ending the year ranked number 57 in the team rankings nationally, the highest in program history. And yeah, guys, like I said, for a program like Houston with basically no history in the sport and doing not great in the facilities department, maybe this feels like a home run hire. Our friend and 1012 Network head honcho Philip actually suggested before the hire was announced or came out, he kind of pinpointed, I think that's someone who would be a really good hire. So, I think in terms of winning the hire and hiring the person that makes sense, guys, I think this one really makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, I agree. I'm sorry, Sam. I'll go here because I know you're our tennis guy, so I want to defer to you and give you all the space to do that. Because the worst thing is when you wax poetic, and I'm like, I agree. No, I think it's a great hire and somebody who can, if you can win at Grand Canyon, I feel like you can win at U of H. Interesting that she brought over the amount of players that she did. I think as of now it's 3. And I also think it's interesting how she said we will be recruiting internationally. That was something that she said was something she wanted to put a focus on, and Houston was a great opportunity for her to do that based on the city, based on all of that. So, Sam, floor's yours, bud. That was all I really had to say about it.
Yeah, fill in a little bit. Adamovic was a standout college player at Oklahoma State, like Dustin mentioned, too. So much that we don't have time to go through all of her college career highlights, but suffice to say, she was the 2016 NCAA tournament MVP, won multiple Big 12 titles, and left OSU with a 79% winning percentage in doubles matches, which is pretty good. Was also a bench player for OSU women's basketball at the end of her college career. I just want to note that because so few college athletes play multiple sports. Like I feel like it's always notable. Led Grand Canyon to back-to-back WAC titles in her 2 full seasons in Phoenix. One of her players from this past season, Natasha Pusa, also qualified for the NCAA singles tournament, along with the Lopes qualifying as a team. They lost in the opening round to number 23 San Diego, but no shame there. I mean, yeah, like you said, Dustin, given the challenges that you have just had historically being competitive, to get a rising star in the profession who checks just about all the boxes I think we had coming in is really exciting. And, normally I'd feel bad about going and vulturing a smaller conference team's roster, but I have no such qualms about Grand Canyon, which I will leave to the side here. I think it's worth taking a quick look, though, at the 3 players that are coming with Adamovic from Grand Canyon, if you'll allow me, guys. Their line 2 singles player, Santa Strombaha. She has 1 more year of eligibility left. Entered the portal back in May, and we got the news right after the hire was announced that she'd be following Adamovic to U of H. Was an incredible 19-1 in singles this past season, 20-4 in doubles. Was part of their line 1 doubles pairing, along with the players mentioned. Pusa was a 3-time first-team all-WAC selection in both singles and doubles 2 seasons ago. Actually had the most singles wins in the program's Division I history, as well as partnering for the most doubles wins this past season. Everything about her, Strombaha, screams player who's ready to step up to a higher level of competition. As a quick aside, also, if you're not a tennis person, want some context to me saying line plus some number. In a standard tennis match, there's 6 singles matches and 3 doubles. Your line 1 singles or doubles pairing are generally your best, most veteran players, down to line 6 for doubles or line 6 for singles or line 3 for doubles, which are generally younger players. But I mean, these are still Division I athletes here, so everyone top to bottom is quite good. There's some strategy to who plays at what line, though obviously your established vets are playing with a very low number next to their name. We also got word that 2 other players, Valeria Krohatina and Eva Seppa, would be following Adamovic from Grand Canyon to be a part of the U of H tennis program. Krohatina was 16-2 in singles this past season, mostly playing at line 5, but also did better against better competition. She was 5-0 against lines 3 and 4 opponents. Seppa played primarily at line 3. She went 13-5 this past season, was 15-1 in doubles this season too. I mean, I think it's worth noting the Big 12 is going to be a much higher level of competition than the WAC for all of these players, but I think it's a good sign, especially the 2 freshmen that I just talked about, that they came in and immediately were quite good at that level of the American college game. I mean, Big 12 is going to be a step up in competition, but I like what I've seen from all 3 of these athletes at this level, and I think it has to be an endorsement of their potential that their head coach thought all 3 could come in and face a much higher level of opponent. A conference that, it bears repeating, Adamovic is also very familiar with from her time playing not that long ago. We also got word from her first meeting with the media that 2 players from last year's team would be returning. Kind of slim pickings for things that UH tennis did well in this most recent season, guys. I don't know if you're aware of that, but I was happy to see Sophie Skoten and Gabriela Cortez will officially be coming back. They're both rising juniors. Skoten was a part of U of H's. I think one of the lone bright spots of the season was their the line 1 doubles pairing that ended the season actually beating the number 20 pairing in the country from Oklahoma in the Big 12 tournament, which I think was cool. Gabriela Cortez also, she was 2-5 against Big 12 opponents in singles play. And, that sounds pretty modest, right? Those were the only 2 singles wins that U of H got against Big 12 opponents the entire season. So, I think think those two are good to bring back. I think it all starts with leadership, and UH got that part right, even acknowledging for the umpteenth time the challenges this program has had. And yeah, the risk of tipping my hand, there might even be some big podcast adjacent Cougar tennis stuff coming in the future, but very happy with the hire, very happy with what I think looks like the short and medium term future of this program.
Yeah, so I did see it was reported, Joseph Duarte, I don't know if he was quoting Adamovic or not, but that basically the intent is to have 7 players on next year's roster. So the 3 coming from GCU, the 2 returnees, and then 2, I guess, kind of as of yet uncommitted or unannounced recruits coming in. And so, I mean, I think it's exciting. It's just, like you said, you have 2 of those athletes coming in who were able to come in as freshmen and play right away at Grand Canyon last year. You'd like to think she can probably recruit to U of H at a higher level than she can recruit to Grand Canyon. That's probably part of why she's here and not continuing as the head coach at Grand Canyon University. So real intrigued as well to see the 2 newcomers and who those will be, but already excited about the newcomers coming in. And it's just a program that even coming into this year, we just didn't have a lot to get too excited about. Just kind of didn't seem like a program with a ceiling that was very high or that was trying anything new and was just kind of doing the same thing and playing at about the same level year after year. And so to suddenly have some excitement and newness around that program, I think is really exciting, and a program that hopefully will get its first ever Big 12 win next year.
Fingers crossed, guys.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
And my last thought, just kind of what you said, Bobby, like mentioning that you're recruiting internationally, that's part of why I just have this belief that U of H tennis could be better than like a bad program, because it's such an international city. Like we had Ryan Wakamerka come on here and tell us like Houston being an international city was so valuable when he was the U of H swim coach, recruiting athletes from overseas, like even logistically, just like getting a flight from Lisbon or Barcelona or wherever to Intercontinental is not necessarily the same headache as I would assume it is to Stillwater, despite the fact that
Intercontinental.
Exactly, it's in the name. But that's what I mean. That's part of his unshakable faith I have that somebody can eventually get something going beyond what we've kind of seen, which Dustin says, kind of this program that seems like it has a low ceiling and doesn't ever seem to do anything notable. I feel like this is a hire that has a potential to change that.
Yeah,
I hope so.
Fingers crossed. Moving forward with some off-season news, Cougar football, since our last episode has gotten some commitments from some future players. The one getting the most headlines, certainly, that's going to be Keisean Henderson, an athlete from Spring, Texas. He's in the class of 2026, so don't get too excited just yet. Only going to be a junior this coming football season, but the reason that he's worth mentioning this early and making a big deal about is that he's considered one of the top athletes in the country at a number of positions in his high school class. Wide receiver, safety, as well as an elite level quarterback. And the understanding from what's been reported is that he's going to be coming to U of H to play quarterback. Currently rated the number 28 player in his high school class in the country at any position, according to the 247 composite. 247's in-house rating system actually has him at number 19. And to be clear, ratings can and will change between now and signing day, and that's also a lot of days in which Keisean Henderson is going to hear from coaches of other schools.
He's got 2 more football seasons.
To not flip to a different school and hopefully eventually sign with U of H, fingers crossed. But as it stands, Henderson would be the second highest rated recruit of the recruiting service era, which dates back to around the year 2000, to ever sign with U of H out of high school, just behind Ed Oliver and ahead of Deontay Greenberry. As you might imagine, with someone who's rated that highly, he chose Houston over offers from an absolute laundry list of blue bloods and P5s, including but certainly not limited to Oklahoma, Michigan, Oregon, LSU, Penn State, Baylor, and Arkansas. Scouting analysts raved about his arm strength, his ability to throw on the run, and just to use his legs to gain yardage. So, yeah, guys, just really exciting commitment overall, and immediately nerve-wracking because I'm immediately excited, and now I immediately have something to feel like I've lost if he flips to a different school between now and signing day. But step one to getting them on campus is getting them to commit in the first place. So, that's step one, and just have to trust Coach Fritz and the staff to take care of the rest of the steps.
Yeah, for me, one, you have to be an incredible athlete to get that list of offers before your junior year starts. That means you are doing some business on the field. That's number one. So you got a baller. I think to your point, Dustin, it's a major get, and this would honestly be a major get for any coach at any program in the country. If you think that if this would have happened at Michigan, that they wouldn't have been losing their minds there if they would have got that commitment from Ohio State. If they, all of that, they would have been celebrating just as much as we have. He's as you said, Dustin, the number 2 athlete, 28th overall in his class. If you actually put him where he ranks and you have him as a quarterback, he's the 4th best quarterback in the country. Super exciting stuff there. You can't help but get excited, but again, you are going to have to hold everybody off, and it just kind of makes you think, what happened on that visit that he came in, that he was like, yeah, I'm ready to commit here for 2 years versus everybody else. There's some magic going. There's some magic happening with Willie Fritz in recruiting right now. This is the most excited I've been about this program in a very long time.
Yeah, I mean, I think you talked about Dustin, a laundry list of offers. The 2 schools that just played for the national championship both gave him committable offers. Like that's crazy. And he chose U of H. Like even U of H in a power conference, even U of H, I think in a much better station than maybe, the 3 of us found it 16, 17 years ago when we, became fans of this program in the decades. But even with that, even with all the new bells and whistles, even with the fancier conference, I think it's still a very pleasant surprise. I think like you alluded to, Dustin, from what I've read, it sounds like U of H differentiated themselves in a positive way by really focusing on recruiting him as a quarterback, where it sounds like maybe some of the bigger names are looking at him as a receiver. And this is the most meaningless piece of analysis I have here, but I like the fact that he rolls up to all the various like quarterback camp. You know where I'm going. Dustin knows where I'm going. I don't know. Maybe Bobby does too. Like the Davy Crockett hat. Like that's awesome. Like that is very weird, but that's also cool as shit at the same time. I think it splits that hair like absolutely perfectly. Another big connection unique to this new UH football staff is that Henderson's high school coach, Michael Bishop, played for Willie Fritz in the 90s at Blinn Junior College, won 2 national titles there as their starting quarterback before being a much-loved 2-year starter at K-State in the late 90s. QBing arguably K-State's best team in the modern era in 1998. Bishop is still very close with Fritz. I've seen him on campus a couple times at least, probably more than that, since Fritz took over. I wanted to read from the evaluation of 247 Sports' regional scouting analyst Gabe Brooks, somebody who I am certain has watched a lot more of Henderson than the 3 of us. I just want to quote him here. He says, displays encouraging redirecting quickness and pads for a longer levered build, raw but talented as a passer, flashes impressive short to intermediate velocity and requisite downfield arm strength that should only improve given strength capacity within frame. Physical and athletic traits make for a particularly unique high upside prospect if QB is his long-term home. That last sentence, guys, sounds really exciting. Like high upside prospect, really good athlete, maybe somebody who's not being looked at as creatively in terms of what he could be at the next level by some of these other programs. Seems like a great fit for what because U of H has found a lot of guys over the years that, that may have been by the bigger name programs in this region or around the country miscast in other roles. Like, I think this guy could be a difference making quarterback for this program. And yeah, really, I think to be really excited about for the long-term future. Yes, you're going to have to sweat out the fact that, hey, he's going to be very much in demand by a number of schools that I'm sure have deeper pockets than U of H. But I think to go back to what you said at the start, Dustin, you can't get him on campus if you don't get the commitment first. And yeah, I think there's a lot of time left in the recruiting process. But this also isn't like an athlete in 7th grade making a college commitment. This is a guy who has, by this point, I think a pretty decent amount of high school tape for someone who's played 2 years of varsity football and got a lot of committable offers from a lot of really good programs and elected to commit here. So I think that alone is worth being excited about. Obviously, we'll really pop the champagne in about 18 months if he actually signs on the dotted line.
I will say, I mean, we kind of went through something similar when Mercy Miller committed to Cougar men's basketball as a sophomore. He went, okay, sure, that's great, but he's really highly rated, but it's a long time. Now you look up and he's on the roster for next year. So, I mean, it's not unprecedented, certainly, for Houston to hold on to a guy with a ton of offers, although obviously the men's basketball program a little bit more.
That's where I was gonna be like, that's a little different, isn't it?
But it can happen, and I think
not totally unprecedented, like you said.
No, absolutely.
I think the big thing here is that he's not committing to U of H because U of H was the most prestigious school to offer. I mean, it's and And recruiting is often about that. It's about who's got the nicest facilities, who's got the most money. It's about relationships also. And, Sam mentioned, his high school head coach having played for Willie Fritz at Blinn. Not only that, but Houston quarterback coach Sean Bell was already recruiting Henderson when he was at Baylor, and I believe said was the first person to actually offer him as a quarterback. So relationships matter in recruiting as well, and I think that's what we saw pay off here for Houston, and I think that's one of the biggest potential upsides for Willie Fritz in recruiting is that he's just someone who has been around for absolutely forever and who just doesn't seem like anyone that has come in contact with him has anything but good things to say about him. That can only mean that there's a lot of people out there in the coaching world who, if they've got a player that U of H is looking at, are probably going to give a pretty strong recommendation to that player and say, yeah, I've got good things to say about Willie Fritz. So good to see that pay off.
I'm sorry. Were you moving on to other players? Cause I have one more.
No. So then I was going to my very last stat or factoid about Keisean Henderson. As of this evening, with Henderson as their only commitment in the 2026 class, Houston currently the number 12 rated class in the country.
It's like the recruiting version of an on-pace stat. I love it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I was just going to compare, like, you remember back in the day when you would play NCAA football and you would start as like Western Michigan or even U of H, let's be honest, back in 2012 was a little bit easier, but some of the older games, right? And you would get your first like 4-star recruit or your first 5-star recruit, and then you'd get a little bit better. Then you would just see your recruiting just uptick. That's kind of how this feels to me. Like Fritz got his first 5-star guy that is, and again, he's not on campus and all that, but it just feels like this is the thing that you get him on, and we see it all the time, right? He starts going to camps and he does these things and he starts talking to other players and going, dude, we can build something here. We can do something crazy. The city's awesome. You get that one high-end recruit, and then he just starts talking to other recruits. And we've had recruits in the past that'll just kind of be on Twitter, just like, hey man, you should recruit here and that kind of stuff. Whenever you get a commitment from a guy like this, if he's bought in and true and I want to play for this and there's no persuading me otherwise, it makes such a difference. You see an uptick in recruiting because they're there and they go to the camps, they go to 7-on-7, and they recruit other good players to come join them on campus.
Yeah. In terms of other guys who will be joining Houston a little bit more in the near future, then we hope that Keisean Henderson will. We saw a trio of 2025 recruits verbally committed to Houston. Willie Fritz tweeted "Go Cougs ×4," which indicates we might see another one coming public in the near future here. But in terms of the guys we know about, Zaylen Cormier is a high 3-star safety from the Heights, offers from Arizona State, Mississippi State, Memphis, UTSA, and others. Wyatt Herbal, a 3-star tight end from Cy-Fair, offers from Cal, Pitt, Utah, Tulane, and others. Chase Bryant, 3-star defensive end from Fulshear, offers from UTSA, Memphis, Rice, Air Force, and others. So, trio of guys here, not of the recruiting profile that Keisean Henderson is, certainly, but at the same time, this is how Houston's going to build. You're not going to get exclusively guys of that caliber. You want to see that you're landing some of these other high 3-star guys that the staff believes in, the kind of guys with the offer lists similar to what we saw from the 3 guys that committed over the weekend.
Yeah, for me, just with Chance Bryant offer list, not mind blowing like you said. Nothing that's going to get you, oh my God, he's got an offer from them. But always good to see linemen that have offers from Army, Air Force. You're getting kind of a grittier guy, tough guy there. If you can impress Air Force, I feel like you got the tough grit to you. And then Wyatt Herbal, tight end, just something I want to acknowledge here and just kind of point out. He's got some other P4 offers. Interesting though that we really seem to see the staff making a commitment to tight ends.
We might actually use them in the receiving game.
Yeah, we had two commit in the last class, and this future class we just got Wyatt on board. I went back and kind of looked at some stats about tight end usage, things like that. 51 receptions last year for a Tulane offense versus U of H using having 18 completions to a tight end, which, if I'm being 100% honest with you, I would have set the under way below 18. If I would have lost that bet. So interesting to see almost triple the amount of tight end usage in that Tulane offense. So more clues that we're going to get a radically different looking offense. Not that we didn't expect that, but just kind of expect a little bit more size. It's not going to be the 07-08 Cougars with Patrick Edwards just flying down the field and Case Keenum just heaving it up there and hoping for the best. So,
but going back there, we might see a worthwhile sequel to Mark Hafner and his incredible 2008 season.
Great callback there. Just what a reference from Sam there. Let me just give it up for Sam there. Great reference there, bud.
No, I was just going to say that. I mean, not only looking at the high schoolers coming in for the future, but Malik Carr was one of the more highly rated tight ends in the transfer portal this offseason. So to get someone that can come in and play that position right away in 2024 at a high level, I think is exciting and indicative of what Fritz's intentions are for that position going forward.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot unique to add other than just saying these like I like liking a trio of local guys in there and guys who are kind of in that mid to high 3-star, like could develop and potentially look like overlooked guys when it's all said and done. So I think that's positive. Can I go back a little bit further for the latest transfer ad, which it's been I would say it's not new news, but I would say it's happened since we last had a regular podcast. Ajani Carter, cornerback, literally I think an hour after we dropped our last regular podcast, from Utah State, committed, local guy, plays high school ball at North Shore. Spent his college career up to this point at Utah State, where he started the majority of his last 2 seasons in that program, which would be the 21 and 22 seasons, combined for 89 tackles and 4 picks over those 2 years. Played in every game also for the 2021 Mountain West champs. Actually committed to Baylor just over 12 months ago, never ended up playing for Baylor last season, so will now play his final season for the Cougs. Still not the most proven position group. And as I said, when Isaiah Hamilton left, didn't love losing the one guy who showed flashes of being a proven difference maker on last year's team. But I also don't think you got worse at the position, which I think is good considering the upheaval that comes with a coaching change. And I think you have some depth at that position. I'm not exactly sure who the standout guys are yet, but I feel pretty good about the depth you have there. You might have better depth. I don't know if you have better top line guys, but I think you might have better depth.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, that's been a position where we've seen them, lose some guys, gain some guys. This offseason is at that cornerback position, and kind of like you said, I think you're losing Isaiah Hamilton, the one guy that looked intriguing there. But I think between getting Carter was his name, the guy you just said, right?
Yep, Ajani Carter. Yep,
Ajani Carter, as well as Chris Davis from Southern, Jeremiah Wilson from Syracuse. Latrell McCutcheon finally getting eligible after a couple of years,
and hearing really good things about his spring ball too.
So I think there is a quartet of newcomers there that I think probably will end up filling out the 2 deep at the 2 cornerback positions, and I think gives Houston a solid chance to actually be pretty decent at that position. And then finally, our last little bit to mention, news item on our way out here: Sean Kenny was announced will not return as the pitching coach of Houston Cougar baseball. Will be replaced by Woody Williams, who had been in a director of pitching strategy and development position this past season. Kenny only lasted 1 year in the job. Houston wasn't good at pitching the baseball this year, but I would argue that only giving Kenny 1 year is not really indicative of the year of the job that Sean Kenny did, so much it is indicative of the fact that they clearly wanted to make Woody Williams the pitching coach, which, to be clear, not saying it's a bad move. Hiring from the position you did at the time, I remember kind of thinking, that's cool. It's cool because mostly you just brought in someone else to be in the program who looks like he might be more qualified to be pitching coach than the guy you just hired as pitching coach, which I think maybe is indicative of the fact that total guess here. I'm going to throw a guess out of the ether. Houston hired Sean Kenny, and then Woody Williams that then afterwards became available, and maybe they brought him in to, okay, we'll let Sean Kenny keep the seat warm. And the reason I say that, yes, Houston was bad pitching the ball this year. No, I also, like I said, don't think Sean Kenny deserved to get canned after year 1. Consider the following. I swear this is true. Houston's ERA of 5.59 this year, not good, but the improvement of 0.68 runs compared to last year's team against a much tougher schedule and a much tougher conference. That is the greatest year-on-year ERA improvement Houston baseball has had in a decade, since 2014. And it took place in a year that you stepped up in competition in a big way. Admittedly, the distinction of best year-on-year ERA improvement in a decade is a bit hollow, given Houston's ERA trajectory over that decade. Houston's team ERA had gotten worse in 6 of the previous 7 seasons. which is amazing. Just it's hard to wrap your mind around getting worse in a stat 6 out of 7 years. And the 1 year that Houston got better was like a tiny little bit, and then immediately cratered even further the next year. So not great. But yeah, I mean, I think it's important to say Sean Kenny took the job when the pitching staff was in a free fall. And yeah, the improvement to a still bad 559 might just be the dead body bouncing after hitting rock bottom. But I don't know. I thought he comfortably earned a year or two in any situation that wasn't, hey, we've got Woody Williams right here ready to take over.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'll let Bobby handle this, but your early 2000s Cardinals bias is showing here, Dustin.
Hey,
I have more. He's actually qualified. All joking aside, he's an actually qualified coach, and I'll dig in on that after I pass the conch over here to Bobby.
Yeah, no, just for me, I think we may have said it on the pod, like, oh, dude, we got Woody Williams. It's kind of weird that we already have a pitching coach. This is weird. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out. And it has played out, gentlemen. So it's definitely, to your point, Dustin, I don't know if it was worth firing him over. It's not like I'm going to sit here and say, oh man, our pitching was so good. I'm shocked by this. Like a 5.58, 5.59 ERA. Not good. Not good. No matter the level of baseball that you're playing, a 5.59 ERA is not what you need there.
Yeah, Williams has a strong coaching resume as well. In addition to being a U of H alumnus, 15-year MLB veteran, he was the pitching coach in 2023 for a certain burnt orange school in Austin. That season, the Horns were 10th nationally in team ERA. He had the Big 12 Pitcher of the Year on his staff. Lucas Gordon, before that, was an assistant for 7 seasons at San Jacinto College, San Jac being a long-time and well-known incubator of future Division I baseball talent. Also was a good hitting pitcher back when pitchers did that sort of thing. And Dustin would hunt me down if I didn't make sure to mention that factoid here on the show. I can hold in my head that I'm excited about Williams' resume, and was excited when he joined the staff. I think it was like at the beginning of the calendar year. So maybe I think, like you're saying, Dustin, the theory here, I think feels like it could be correct. And also, I can hold the other thought in my head that I kind of have the same concerns about the fact that this program really hasn't had high-level consistent pitching since Frank Anderson left after 2017, even if I do very much like having Woody Williams now join the on-field staff and very much like his resume to this point in time.
Yeah, I think it's worth pointing out that I like the Woody Williams hire, and I can say that in one breath, and with that same breath say, I think I liked all 3 other hires we've made since Frank Anderson left on paper, and none of them panned out.
Yeah,
absolutely. Terry Rooney famously was here 4 years. All 4 years that he was here, the team ERA got worse than the year it was the year before. Kyle Bunn came in, had 1 year where he got things righted a little bit and then immediately cratered, and then we saw Sean Kenny with his 1 year this past year. So take 4 after Frank Anderson, who
4 times the charm.
To add insult to injury, of course, Frank Anderson, the pitching coach for the number 1 team in the country right now, that is in Omaha. Just rubbing a little salt in that wound there, but. That is, I think, really all you need to look at for the what it's been like to be a Cougar fan and why this program has been so frustrating for the last decade is just, literally just the ERA going worse and worse and worse and worse, just seemingly year on year. And hopefully we've hit rock bottom, and hopefully Woody Williams is the one that kind of gets things seriously long-term trending back in the right direction.
Yep.
All right, I think that is everything for this episode then. On our way out, we're going to do our usual big thank you to our Scott Holman podcast Patreon supporters, our patrons, very, very much appreciated for the money that you put behind the work that we do. We don't take that for granted at all. If you do enjoy this podcast on a regular basis, if you feel like $5 or more per month is something that you can afford, we would love for you to go to patreon.com/shpodcast. And get yourself some good karma by signing up to be a Scott Holman podcast patron. If you want to reach out and say hi, you can email us, as I said before, shpodcast@gmail.com, tweet at us at shpodcast, speak to us on Blue Sky at podcast.bsky.social. That's it for us. If you made it to the end, you are an absolute rock star. And as always,
go Cougs.